So it went from no tests positive originally to up to, I think it was 8 was the next one, and then 14. Just what was chronologically the timeline of all that? Were some guys retested in that time period?
Yeah, it was a couple of things. We obviously, we brought in a large group early, mostly veterans, and those were all the negatives. And then as some of our new guys came in, they were kind of brought in sporadically, and we tested them, several guys each day. And then I think within that group, while they were here, either they got exposed or whatever, they got tested on Thursday or Friday. We didn't get the test back till Monday. There was a couple of social gatherings. Again, nothing terrible. I mean, I think probably a bunch of guys sitting around the apartments playing video games. I think there was, something else out at a pool party or something. And then just from the contact tracing, it went from 2 to 4. Then I think last Wednesday, a couple of guys showed up that weren't part of the group that we gave, as they showed up to the facility. We took their temperatures. Their temperatures were high. We sent them home. We tested them. They were positive. We asked them about their contact tracing. And then a couple of guys called their trainer and said, "Man, I'm not feeling very well." And boom, next thing you know, we were at the number we're at on Friday. So it's amazing how quickly it spreads, and that's kind of the whole point is you guys have got to wear your mask when you're together, and you got to make sure you can stay apart from each other. If they had done that, we'd have probably had less than half of those numbers.
So you guys have had some symptomatic cases. These have not been all asymptomatic?
Yes, we've had some symptomatic cases. I don't know how many, to be honest with you, other than I think there were 3 kids that between a couple of kids showing up and having a temperature and then a couple of kids calling in. I don't know the rest of them if they're more asymptomatic, and then I don't know of the numbers we have right now, which I believe is 14, how many are actually even feeling badly. I think it's not, I don't think anybody feels terribly other than maybe a headache or some aches and maybe some temperatures, but nothing much more than that.
Gene Taylor is talking with us right now. Across college football, I mean, it's not just you guys. Clemson had upwards of 23 positive tests. Texas obviously has had a couple of dozen that have had to be shut down in self-isolation. How much has your optimism changed or, I guess, waned? How much has optimism gone away based on the last week and what you've seen with this as far as getting a season in?
I'm glad it's June and that maybe we can understand it a little bit better, how to manage it. If somebody is positive, or making sure our athletes understand the importance of mask and control what they can control. But yeah, I'm certainly more nervous that throughout the year we may have either loss of games or I do think we'll get games in, whether we get 12 or 9 or whatever the number is. I'm not as confident as we're getting all 12 in right now than I was probably a week ago. But, I think we're also learning just, a lot more each week. And the frustrating thing, I'll be honest with you, is I'm not talking Big 12 schools, but I'm not sure every school's out there really reporting their numbers. I don't know how they cannot do that. I'm sure they reported their counties, but they're not doing any sort of release. So I'm guessing there's other schools that have as many, if not more, than we do right now.
Well, the other thing, too, that is hard for me to wrap my head around, and this is a question that I understand is probably for somebody further up the ladder than you, but if this is the case that you have 14 out of 130 kids that come back to play football, what is the expectation for what happens in August when you have 15 to 20,000 students coming back here to Manhattan? Because then it feels like even if football players, athletes are doing the right things, it would be still difficult to maintain immunity from this thing with how many students are going to be back, likely with similar numbers percentage-wise of positive tests.
Well, again, I think we can control that by, obviously they still got to go to the grocery store, and if they want to go downtown, they got to wear a mask. I mean, the likelihood of us having as many contact tracing numbers as we have now, if everybody would have been wearing the mask, would have been way, way less than that, and we probably wouldn't have had to take the pause. But when nobody wears a mask, it just spreads that much further. But if our players always go out and have masks on wherever they go, and our athletes, then the chances of them becoming either close contact or becoming positive are much, much less. And I don't think they understood it at first. Nobody else is wearing a mask. Why should I wear a mask? I think now that they've seen it run through at least football and our other athletes, they're like, okay, I get it now. And hopefully they'll adhere to that, because I think that's a huge way to keep it from spreading.
Gene Taylor is with us. Another part of it that seems very tricky to me is just the enforcement of this. What can you do? I know in the Athletic article, scholarships have been brought up as something that could be dangled there. How do you try to enforce or legislate some of this within the players?
Well, it's like anything else. And again, we were trying to, put a little more seriousness in it. I don't know that we'll actually, some parents heard that we said if our kid gets COVID, we're going to take their scholarship. And no, that's not the case. But it's like anything else you have in team rules, right? If you show up to lifting every day, you're probably going to face some consequences. If you don't go to your academic support, you're probably going to face some consequences. If we tell you you're in quarantine or in isolation, and we, hear that you're out or you're not wearing your mask or you're not being quarantined, then you're probably going to face some consequences. What those are, I don't know. That's going to be up to Coach Kleiman. But, if somebody constantly, repeatedly doesn't do what we've asked them to, then, yeah, I guess, ultimately you could do that. But I'm just hopeful that we got good kids. Nobody did anything purposely. They didn't run out and say, okay, I've got COVID, I'm going to go spread it all over. That's not the case. There's just still that, youthful mentality. I'll be fine. I'm not going to get it. And sure enough, it's gone through them. So, fortunately, they're young. Most part, not going to be very sick. They're going to get over it in a couple of days, and hopefully they won't face, a chance to get it again. But that's not clear either. People are saying that you could get it again in a couple of months. So, anyway, I think we just have to keep educating them and doing everything we can to stress the importance of following our advice for our medical folks.
Do you have a feel for what, once the season gets going, right now you have 14 and had to shut down workouts, what that number or threshold would be during the season to say, hey, this is the number where we're going to have to shut it down? Or is it just purely, are you still doing contract tracing at that point? I guess the question I come up with is, how do you treat it like this and still do have some semblance of a football season?
Well, a couple of things that I hope are going to be different, and we're being told it is right now these tests are expensive, $100 a pop, and so if there's a way we can find a test that's not as expensive and it's not as invasive, and I hear that's coming, we could test more regularly, and that would be helpful. And then I think the big thing is going to be, when a kid is positive once the season starts, do you really have to? Because there's a lot of debate about what is actual contact tracing, what is, and how important that is. Is it a way that you can just sit the kid who's positive, or somebody that's showing symptoms, sit them, and everybody else is asymptomatic, let them play? That's something that I would hope we could get to, but I'm not a medical doctor, or I'm not a infectious disease specialist. So, but I think as we learn more about this and how it affects them as a young person, could we be able to do that? Is you only sit them if they have symptoms or they're positive and let everybody else play? I think you could probably have a better chance of playing the season.
Gene Taylor is with us. I'll leave you with this, and this is really just my personal opinion, but I would imagine there has to be some level of frustration that right now you have like youth sports going on. It appears high school sports still on track where the money and resources are not there to be testing. Then at the professional level, obviously the resources are there to be tested, and you have these bubble scenarios that can exist that are really unrealistic in college football. It just would seem to be there has to be a frustration of college athletics and college football is pinned in this weird area where there's responsibility there to have to test, but at the same time you can't go all out like the NBA and play in Disney World.
There's no question, and the same with the NFL. I hear they're going to be doing daily testing. We can't afford that. We've got situations where, we are talking amongst both the Big 12 and other Power 5 conferences that what are we going to do with the teams that come in that aren't Power Five. In our case, the North Dakotas, the Buffaloes. Are we going to require them to be tested? And if they don't do it, do we say they can't come play us? Or do we say, you got to be tested and we're going to send you the money, but it's going to come out of your guarantee? I mean, those conversations are going on right now. We don't have an answer yet, but absolutely, we are stuck in a little bit of a different area, both from the financial perspective, yet we still have the same responsibility. And how do we manage to do that? And right now, we're doing the best we can to kind of put those questions out there and get at them as soon as we can.